Hello,
No,
Kato.
no.
Oh, hello.
Open, stream, live, dict, out. I am forcibly removed from Twitch for violating the terms and conditions.
Well, sorry, that we gotta say goodbye then. Goodbye, all the people. We've
Okay,
been
see you, bye.
forcibly banned
Oh
from
dear.
Twitch.
I can't move my legs.
This is
You caught the
this is
cables.
this is a little awkward.
This is a little
I am
awkward.
trapped by social convention.
Perry the
Perry the
platypus.
platypus.
I love that this is what you miss if you happen to join our stream late. It's just this high level,
This
high quality.
The peak of comedy.
How dare
And-
you? I'm a delight.
You are.
No, I never said you weren't. In fact, I believe I called you high quality.
What can I say?
I'm not sure if that was quite truthful. I was noting a hint of sarcasm, Kato.
Yeah, it's the English accent. Unfortunately, everything sounds sarcastic like this.
It does.
Mm-hmm. Anyway,
Anyway,
who are you? Who are you?
Who am I? I am Mitch, aka Kung Fu Panzer. And who are you?
I'm Kato, aka Kato.
And who are you?
I'm Az, aka Captain Tiny, and you cannot kill me in any way that matters.
As is a fungus, noted.
As is a fungus. They will infect and spread everywhere.
This is good. This is very promising.
Yeah.
So as is never going to hell. The rest of us might, maybe.
Maybe, who knows?
Who knows?
You Jews don't believe
But-
in hell.
But before,
But before that,
before we
need-
get to Greythor,
we need to record this show that we do.
I am
What?
trying to transition to this episode, which is called Before Hell.
Before Hell.
Before Hell. Part 2.
Part 2.
Part 2.
And this is Beyond the Stars, not just Kato, Az, and Mitch being dicks.
I mean, that is the whole show.
That is the whole show, but
Mm.
slightly less than
That was the
show.
pitch.
Like, beyond the show, and then the tagline is Kato, Az, and Mitch being dicks.
That is
Correct.
100% the problem.
So, this is Beyond the Stars,
Beyond the Stars, episode 6.
discussing Before Hell Part 2.
Before Hell, part 2. And we left off kind of the opening of a mystery, not knowing who had sabotaged the Borg recovery base.
Mhm.
We had a
And
couple of
now,
options.
the conclusion.
The conclusion. Dun, dun, dun.
Yes. I think the start of this episode was very good for recapping all of those sort of central bits about, there's this planet full of like mainly Klingon former Borg drones. They're dying. Why are they dying? They've got one sort of warden who is very trustworthy and seems to be very sort of like well inclined towards everyone, and this other guy who is very much not their friend.
Very
and
much
incredibly-
just the worst.
His Klingon armor must be just made of red flags because he was so much just like throwing off. Oh
The
dear,
herringest of herrings.
do not trust.
I think
So-
Sam needs to like be sent. Someone needs to send Sam, or even every member of the cast, like a little red flag. That when they get suspicious, they should just get out and
Well,
wave it.
Well, I think it's because
Oh.
Sam, as Azari, has yet to go on an away mission. So Sam's just sitting there, just panicking, whilst the crew is just doing things. So yes, a little flag of this is danger, danger, danger.
I genuinely have been required to sit in a room and wave a red flag when I saw red flags sort of come up on the thing that was being presented. It was a part of my education.
Oh, no.
Which, I mean, I suppose it was theoretically useful in that we were studying red flags of a sort, and it was, good practice, but I can't in good conscience recommend it as a thing. So, before we get into the meat of this episode, the plot, the resolutions, I just want to highlight in the preamble that Gina is taking her job as EXO very seriously, and she is concerned that all of the RP on the League of Whimsy server is very dark and sad, and everyone is having serious emotions. And I really enjoyed that moment of interaction where she was like, wait, people are still upset? My whole plan to make people not upset was a failure. I need to do more. I need to be better.
Which
I
is
wish it.
Star Trek is cheaper than therapy.
Star Trek is apparently cheaper than therapy,
Tragically.
but it's actually very good because it just means that Exio cares about the crew
Mm-hmm.
a whole bunch, as we saw at the end of this episode. But we're not there yet.
We are not.
Yes.
The other thing to say, of course, is that the Descent into Midnight RPG Kickstarter has launched,
It has,
and we are
And
funded.
also fully funded, and we're now funding several
And we're heading
stretch goals.
We're heading towards stretch goal 3, I believe.
Yes, we have 2 episodes of a stream of Descent into Midnight, which is very exciting. I would like 6. I would like 12. I would like maybe 100.
100,
So
yeah.
just keep pushing that, supporting
Somebody
that.
get rich and become a mysterious benefactor.
Get
Yeah.
rich and then help rich.
What?
It is wild because I'm in some other Discord servers for multiple different fandoms, and it popped up in at least 2 of them.
hmm
And it was very bizarre to be like, so there's a podcast I listen to called The Cryptid Keeper, and it turned up in their server, and I was like, wow, this is some weird cognitive dissonance. This is a weird mishmash of fandoms here. And it turned up in a Dragon Age server I was in, which was wild, and I was like, why are the stream punks following me into every corner of my fandom hell?
Because it is good content,
But it
and
is
you have a
good-
brand.
It is also good content.
It is good hashtag content.
So speaking of this episode's hashtag content,
This episode's hashtag content, we had some absolutely top cheeky buddy cop bands.
I really like Prowl and Lakat. One is
They're
a
a
veteran,
great pair.
grizzled, and like serious, and the other one is just so excited to be here. I'm
so
thrilled by
excited to ruin
ev-
everything.
every horrific murder weapon that she finds.
It is a beautiful day
On
on the colony, and you are a terrible, horrible Cardassian.
Yeah. I mean, I really love her. I love everything about kind of the relationship that they build.
Mm.
Like Prowl's little like very kind of like dry. Well, lots of things in this colony have
Oh my
broken.
God.
Shoots door. Like
That was so a
Prowl
classic.
he's really good at one-liners. Is Prowl. He's quite he's a really nice, very much that sort of like that stern cop character.
I feel like Eric
Um,
midweek when planning the sessions just has a whiteboard where he's like got Prowl, Vren, one-liners, and he just has the whiteboard whenever he thinks of a good one-liner for either of them.
Uh-uh.
Just
They're delightful, but I think probably most of them are off the cuff, given how good this group are just at
yeah, for
improvising.
sure.
I also like Jane kind of like being like, "Ooh, I wonder if something happens at night," and kind of having you could see a little like horror movie play out in Rave's head as she was imagining like what could go wrong at night on this moon. Why do people lock themselves indoors? It's a really beautiful emotional journey that is immediately followed up with, oh well, there's this this is like this big like Klingons have disruptors which don't have a stun setting, they only kill, and she was like, I love it, I want it, and Sam was just like, no, I don't want it. My captain
Bad
says I
Lakat.
can't have it. Yeah, and it was really good because she just went on this beautiful journey like, I love it, I want it, I don't want it, my captain says I can't have it. And I appreciate that Lakat has that level of like loyalty / obedience. It's a slightly different sort of attitude from say Sage in Shield of Tomorrow, where we had very much a willingness to bend the rules and to disobey. Like Lakat is that junior officer who's trying to learn how to lead and learn how to do stuff kind of well in this stealthy environment, but she does have that Cardassian respect for hierarchy and structure, and she is gonna go, my captain says I can't have it,
So I'm either
which-
gonna not have it or have it and not tell the captain.
I think she is very much the first and not the second.
At the
That's
moment.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, there is no good tension or no interesting sort of plot without that kind of, ooh, can we tempt you to break the rules with this even bigger gun? Because they do find
Exactly.
even bigger guns.
It reminds me of the, those troubled birds? It's the one that is like, that's a crazy idea. Insane. It doesn't make sense. You'll do it? Of course, I replied.
Yeah, it's
Silly,
it's gonna-
silly birds.
it's going to be really interesting to see
It is.
where Lakat falls in that to spectrum. But this beautiful buddy cop duo go off and they explore and they discover sinister things. Chirek has been communicating off-world.
Dun dun dun.
Yes,
This
very
is a
much.
classic buddy cop movie episode,
It
and
is.
I want several spin-off buddy cop episodes of Lakat and Prowl, please.
Yeah. It's a classic that, but also a classic episode of like Midsummer Murders.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like
Yes.
if Midsummer Murders was the two, because Midsummer Murders is very much that. It is the veteran like Barnaby detective, and then a series of young new detectives who are too enthusiastic and young for him, and that is exactly this vibe. It's just that Midsummer is a nice village in the English countryside and not a Borg colony or an ex-Borg colony in Klingon space, but basically the same.
That is the galactic village, so to speak.
Yeah, there are no material differences between small English villages and large Klingon colonies.
Exactly, and we will leave that there.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the fact that Jane has a weird. She's kind of horny for danger.
I don't like how you describe that at all, but yeah, I agree with the assessment. Yeah, there would be no fun if there was no real danger. That is such a junior, officer, naive. Like, it's very interesting because the cut obviously has a past and obviously has a very different sort of set of experiences to lots of the other sort of crew. Like, we can speculate about her relationship with Cardassia, with her family, all that kind of stuff. But she is not the veteran that Prowl is. Like, you see Prowl and Vren, and you see these people who have come through the Dominion War and are very clearly in that space of they're jaded, they're tired of fighting, they've lost a lot of people, they've lost a lot of friends. And Lakat has a really different energy that isn't quite as she hasn't gone through that necessarily, or at least she hasn't been as sort of adversely affected by what she's seen and experienced, because she still has that enthusiasm for danger, where you can sort of feel Prowl going, I would like it if every away mission we went on, I took everyone's phases in on the planet and replaced them with like water pistols. Like, I would like to wrap everyone in bubble wrap and put them on a nice like safe space. I don't want any danger for my crew. Whereas the cat is like, yeah, danger, excitement. And that's such a beautiful like junior senior contrast there.
It was delightful and further played into the buddy cop nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
So they followed Chirrut and they had a lot of fun, and then we cut away to the more investigation of what's happening side of things with Tech kind of working on these regeneration pods, and Exio getting a little bit more extra knowledge. And bless Gina. Bless her heart. It's just like all of the support crew. You and you and you all through the episode.
Yeah. There's been a lot of good involvement with this crew this episode. And it's clear that Gina and probably like Raven Sam have all been kind of like looking at the list of specialties, the list of abilities, and picked out specific people who are useful on specific missions. Been like, this person, I want this person because I know they have these skills, which is really nice and it's really great. Gina's also clearly having so much fun being a hologram, just like, you've got a transporter lock, but you can't beam up because the ship's shields are up. We'll get into that later. I will just stand here holding it in exactly the position it needs to be because I'm a hologram and I can do that. I love the way that she's playing with her lack of limits in a sort of physical biological sense.
It is like semi-robotic in a way. It's really fun.
So just to finish off, like the ground team, Lakat and Prowl, they go find the shuttle. They see the meeting between Chirrut and this Lethian, and they clean up. They take those people out so fast.
Just
it was like
they are beast.
Arousingly efficient.
Brings back good memories.
That was some good phaser sort of fire as well, and I think like with combat in Shield of Tomorrow, we didn't get into phases very often, simply because we had a really great hand-to-hand sort of person in Rue. So we didn't really need to get into phases because they weren't necessarily the most advantageous way to fight.
Because Rue was I'm going to clear 300 meters in a second and then knock a bitch out.
Yeah. Rue had a very different style, but I'm enjoying sort of being able to see different like aspects of the system, and really sort of see like with phases, like that's the classic sort of Starfleet way, and they did a good job. Good work, security team.
We love one phasery boy.
Yes, and one phasery girl.
I just love him. I love Prowl so much.
He is very good. Speaking of other people that are very good,
I was about to just say he is so your type. He is just your boy.
I'm Vren.
I know.
The whole crew.
Like, I know, but I know you, and you have a little soft spot for your grumpy boy.
I do love a grumpy boy.
You do. It is very difficult to play favorites when everyone in the crew is so good. That they are all very good. Speaking of people that I love specifically, So Chief Tech calls down Chief Sing to help.
Oh, Chief
Um,
Sing.
We love
Which is
Chief
great.
Sing.
He
I love
does such a nice thing.
I love how handsome he is. Like I love everything about like just I love the like that his turban coordinates with his uniform. He is amazing. I am really glad that Xander has not decided to bear him a grudge for the fact that he cannot roll well. Like he failed the transporter's role. He
That's
is the
his job.
transporter's chief. Why?
It's like the
What is-
instructions unclear got my dick caught in a ceiling fan.
To be fair,
How?
historically, transporter chiefs have fucked up a lot in Star Trek.
Yeah.
It's
But,
kind of
like-
part of the job.
Oh, why does Eric roll so badly when he's rolling for Sing? Like even in this episode, he mechanically contributes very little to like extended tasks.
He got at
is
least
not.
one success.
Yeah, okay. He got some successes, but he should be built for this sort of stuff. He's an engineering like main character. Well, not a main character, but like he's an engineering focused character. He should be able to contribute stuff other than just taking his suit off to give it to Tech.
But that was
Like-
so kind.
It was
Oh.
so good,
My heart.
but it was basically an admission like you are better at this than me. You should
I
live.
mean-
If one of us is gonna die.
To be fair, G-Tech is infinitely better than any other member of the engineering crew.
Yeah, because he is Xander's like actual character. Like there's, you know, there are reasons for this, but I love the expression of Sing's kind of like protectiveness, his affection for Tech that like represents as a gesture. Even though I find it hilarious that he can't roll at all.
I blame Eric exclusively.
Yeah, but Eric rolls well when he's not rolling for Sing. Like he can roll well.
He can
It's
roll
just-
well. Just
Why?
chooses not to.
Yeah. So that
It
was all very
really
good.
lovely. And we will get into the extended task because Kato's going to crunch because Kato loves a crunch.
It's
I was
not.
so
Yeah.
excited.
It's yes. We will talk about extended tasks and whether or not they work and how they are.
We
But
had
meanwhile,
some classic nonsense, classic Star Trek nonsense on the bridge.
see this actually this bit owns my whole heart. Just like absolutely. I love the description of Azari like switching from tense and impatient and kind of a bit wound up to I've caught a scent. I'm calm now. This is a hunt.
I'm working.
I'm going. Like I really love that. I love having Olin as a character to sort of get that insight and get that on about different people. And I love just everyone in the scene is so good. Like Vren doing his job, but like well and nicely,
And just
demonstrating
being
why you
a
keep
good
him
boy,
around.
being the best lad.
Yeah, like he is a flyboy. He's absolutely a flyboy. He's built to be that kind of like cocky, irritating, like confident pilot character. But you can see that he knows how to do his job well. Like he knows how to try and look like he's not moving up towards the poles to investigate this like other ship that they have discovered. They discover another other ship. I don't know if we'd mentioned that.
Yeah, they
but, like-
discover the Lethian ship.
Yeah, essentially, they discover a ship that's in hiding, that's trying to block their senses, and then we have this beautiful, very traditional kind of like going back to Age of Sail. There's always this with ship combat and ship contact. It's always about deception and bluffing and trying not to reveal your sort of your hand too early. So we
Knowledge is
have Vren.
power.
Yeah, so much. I mean, we have Vren trying to divert course so they can get close enough to do a scan without making them sort of scared enough to think, oh, they've seen us, they're going to come and like get us, making it look natural, you know, that fly casual kind of approach. And then when we switch to like the tractor beam, which like tractor beams, you guys, this is so exciting.
Tractor beams are
This is
great.
such cool tech, but having stuff like, oh yeah, I'm going in, I'm going to go through the stratosphere to get there. Like, yes, this ship doesn't land. Yes, this ship is not technically atmosphere capable. I'm going through atmosphere. I know that like the shields can handle it. This is all fine, but it will get me to my destination faster. Like that is all such amazing like flight handling stuff with really good, interesting like flight choices.
I loved that just the talking about tractor beams and specifically the tractor beams installed in Galaxy or Galaxy variant ships, where it's like there is a reason no one tried to fight the Enterprise D.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't get away from the fucking thing.
Yeah, it's a big like this is a big significant like powerhouse they're sitting on here. Like
Mm.
this is like even before you get into a second warp core, this is huge. And tractor beams are really cool. Like they are such an interesting sort of bit that allow for very different relationships and attitudes. They allow us for a different kind of like a different way of approaching combat even than you would.
So
You're
I have a
just gonna
question.
go for sort of phases of completeness.
I have a
Yeah.
question mechanically.
Okay.
If a ship is captured in a tractor beam, can it still fire?
There's nothing to say that it can't fire. It so like as far as the tractor beam rules are essentially like basically you have to do something to get out of the tractor beam. So you can try and use shield modulations, you can try and just use engine power to break out, you can try and disable the tractor beam. Whatever you try and do will determine like how you approach and what kind of a roll it is. So it might be like a con roll, assisted by like engines, I don't know, engines engineering for like the kind of using engine power to get out, where it's like, oh, you gotta fly angle, but you gotta have enough engine support like from the ship. Or like shield modulations would probably be science engineering kind of thing, or disabling the tractor beam would probably be security and like firing. But the difficulty of all of those checks is the power strength of the tractor beam. So
Which
for
is
a
stonks in our
Galaxy
case.
class, it's difficulty 5.
Ugh.
So no matter what approach you try and take, it is very, very difficult to break out of the tractor beam. That is not, and it is like a whole action just to do that.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually explicitly say you can't fire from within a tractor beam, but like if you're going up against the kind of ship that has a strong enough tractor beam to trap you and keep you there, you are probably going to be at a significant firepower disadvantage. And also, they have you in a tractor beam, they are going to be able to fire on you. Like they are going to have advantage.
Yeah, they're
You're
not
going to
gonna
have
miss.
complication. Like it is a bad time to be in a tractor beam, for sure. So yes, that was very cool and sexy, and I am very excited that we have an actually powerful ship that can do
Oh,
actually
it's
powerful ship stuff. I also want to really shout out Sam and like Azuri being concerned about Q shuttles. Like this is A plus, just like great historical ship nonsense.
For the
We have
kids
always
at
talked.
home, what's a Q shuttle?
So like this is a historical thing. Q ships were fake merchant ships that were used in sort of World War One, World War Two, where basically you would get a ship, you would dress like a merchant vessel, and you would hope that the submarines of the enemy would surface. So they would go, oh, like that's that merchant vessel, that's completely fine. We can surface, and then, oh no, we're not a merchant vessel. In fact, we are like British destroyer, whatever. And now we know where the submarine is and we can fire on you. That was kind of like
Okay. Geoships. We have
yeah.
been attacked.
We have been
Oh my
finally
gosh.
raided.
We have been attacked.
And so Eric is 26 minutes over his time.
That's okay.
little-
The ramble went
little
over
bit of
long.
rambling. That unexpected. Yeah. So yeah, the Q ships are this sort of historical ship. The term dates back to World War One, World War Two, but like the practice of wearing the wrong colors, dressing yourself up as a merchant if you are a fighting ship. So lots and lots of fighting ships in the golden age of sail would would wear things and like change their colors and try and look like have fewer crew on deck so that you couldn't tell that they had like a large number of people, or would like look more messy, and because merchant ships were much less like organized than navy ships, so you would like throw mess about and make your sails look less good and that sort of stuff. And so like it is a very historical thing that is really beautiful, and I love deception in like ship combat.
Great.
I love it as a part, like the concept of bluff being such a hugely important part of the way you do ship combat, the way you think about this sort of stuff, because you're not talking to your enemy, you can't hear on their bridge, you don't know what's going on over there. So it is about instinct and reading from the behavior of the ship, what the captain is going to do. And so much good Star Trek comes into like when you have two captains who understand each other. So much good Star Trek is there about like, Khan versus Kirk, and two antagonists who know each other really well and can read each other.
It is the classic chess game.
Yeah. Between
like
two people.
edging forward, edging back, finding the waters, and then it's beautiful. It's nonsense. It's why I'm so excited that one of the major antagonists is shaping up to be Romulans, because that kind of tactical nonsense in combat is going to be incredible.
Absolutely. Also, I really liked that Sam used the term Q-ship specifically because there was a brief moment of what Q on Eric's face. And it's really beautiful that like inadvertent foreshadowing of like, oh,
Yeah.
we'll mention Q.
Gee.
We know
that
he's
was
gonna show up. We know Q is gonna show up.
Yeah, but like maybe not this episode. And so I like it as
Oh, I
just
know.
kind of like,
I just enjoy that it's like just gently reminding you that Q is there, always watching in the
Yeah.
background,
We
being
love a
like,
Q.
one day.
We love a Q.
Mhm.
Some nonsense.
It is time to
It is
talk about my
time.
favorite thing in the whole world, nurses. I love nurses. We should all stand nurses forever.
I think
They
we
are the
do.
backbone of our healthcare, you guys.
they absolutely are. And like Macrel hits it, like Macrel and Nurse Macrel and Nurse Shamira, like the little team working on this Klingon that has been rescued from the planet that is about to die. They knock this out of the park
just
straight
8
out.
million successes. It's
9
fine,
successes,
whatever.
which is according to Sam, I haven't checked the stats myself, like that is definitely the Clear Skies all time. It might tie the Shield of Tomorrow all time, and it is like episode 6
Is it not? Do you not have a maximum of 10?
of successes.
Yeah,
Um,
because I believe you can only have 5 die rolled. Total.
well, you have the ship, you have the assist, you can buy more than 3 die. I believe it just costs more momentum.
I thought.
So
I'll
you
have to
spend
double
one
check,
on
'cause I think
you
there is
spend
a
one on your
maximum.
determination, roll 2. No, you did no. You could it should go up to at least 12 because
Okay.
you can roll 3 die. And then and then I'm
We'll
pretty
have to
sure
double check. And
that
come
is a
back to
very
you.
that is very interesting.
We must crash. But yes,
but
they
yeah,
rolled a
like-
bajillion million successes.
Very
incredible-
exciting. Yes, good. The first time we use a nurse and she fucking like just nails it. Bring me more nurses, please. Please and thank you. I
Yeah,
love
and
her. I want her to come back. I want her to be in every episode. I love nurses. Continue.
there would be no tension because she just obviously
She
she
just
is
comes
the
in and just hulks out, punches the dude in the face.
she's the
Nurse
inverse.
Shamira would absolutely punch a Klingon in the face and win.
Well,
Well, she didn't need to.
I mean,
I know.
basically, my point is that she's the reverse Singh. Like, so Singh can't roll at all, even in like fields he's meant to be superficially good at, like transporters, being
Yeah.
the transporter chief.
That's
Whereas
considering
Shamira
there's
is like,
3 focuses.
Shamira comes into the transporter room after Chief Singh has failed and is just like, move, I've got this.
yeah, it's so good because like Shamira does not spend a determination, none of that sort of stuff happens. Like Singh fails even to spending his determination. Like
Yeah.
even with auto crits, he sucks. And Shamira's just like, yeah, me and Macrel, like medical team for the win. And I also am really glad that Macrel like very deliberately shares the glory and like they absolutely save this Klingon and really like bring them back to a really good place. And she's like, no, we did this. Like she's very generous with her support and like very generously going, sort of respecting the contribution. Unfortunately, the Klingon is a little bit disoriented because he was not expecting to wake up in a Federation medical bay.
I mean,
Whoopsie.
why would he?
Oopsie daisy.
And then Macrel is just the best.
Yeah,
I love her so much.
Just gonna give you a nice gentle hug and ask the nurse to sedate him.
She is so chill. She is so chill. That woman has seen things.
I mean, to be fair, like she takes a hit. So,
Oh, yeah.
one of the really nice things about Star Trek Adventures combat is you have this contested roll thing. Like she fails her roll, and so she takes a hit from the Klingon, and then she successfully like gains the advantage when it's his turn, and then is able to grapple and like sort of hold him. And then even when he tries to break out, doesn't happen, and the nurse gets to subdue him. Like it's really actually very impressive.
I just love that, like, average Klingon,
Yeah,
6 foot. Maybe a bit taller.
more than 6 foot. Yeah,
I'd say, at average, they're probably 6'3", 6'2", maybe?
yeah. They're
And then
tall.
you just have Macrel, 5 foot nothing.
Yeah,
Just,
but strong.
she's huge. She's like Kolar strong.
She's like one of those tiny little people in animes or whatever, and then they're like weeding like little tiny noodles, and they rip their clothes off, and they're absolutely ripped.
Yep.
They're just so buff. I
She's the
heard
most-
Macrel has a 9-pack.
Yeah. She's just like the really chunky cats. Like that's the
Oh,
look.
just there's the hyper dense cat.
Just like
Yeah, yeah.
fucking Hall of the Mountain King. Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun.
Um,
I love her. She was excellent.
I love her
Yeah.
so much.
I do want to just like generally highlight like it is very clear that like this crew does not have an active like main security character. There's no one in this list of characters that is like the security lead at all. But obviously, lots of people have security like as a minor from Starfleet Academy or like something else that's very important because McCrell is able to like take on a Klingon pretty impressively, and we see Lakat earlier with the phasers. Like there are lots of people who are security second. I'd probably say even Saul probably has a fair amount of security.
I think as a counterintelligence operative and
Yeah.
specifically seems specialized in clandestine operations,
Yeah.
definitely has some security back in her
Yeah.
back in her up, sorry.
Yeah. Like it definitely looks like there's a high amount of security in this crew, even though no one is like the security main, which is really like sensible balance.
Yeah, for sure.
But I am all about that. So
I've got a
we
ship
have
that barely needs anyone to shoot things. It's so huge.
you do need someone to press the button. Like
Yeah.
it's fine. So at the end of all that, we have essentially like we have saved all of the Borg on the planet, like all of the ex-Borg on the planet,
Nailed it.
and we have captured 2 Lethians and a Klingon who we need to interrogate a little
We
bit.
do, and oh boy, Kato. Oh boy.
The crew of the Ross can have little an interrogation as
Yeah.
a treat.
So
Absolutely.
There are some things that happen that make my brain be like, oh, look at all these weird connections I can start
Time to
making.
get your
Ooh.
tinfoil hat out.
Yeah.
So straight up, Lethian, terrified of Sol.
Yeah. And well, ex-crime syndicate member,
Ex-crime
terrified of Sol.
Ex-crime syndicate.
Yeah.
Not so sure about that.
Okay. A member of the remnants of the Orion crime syndicate.
Is it remnants or is he lying?
Well, yeah, okay, fair. I think it is almost more interesting if it is not a good syndicate. Like individual cells in a sort of power vacuum jockeying for power is much more my read on the situation than like the crime syndicate is at full power and full force and there is like an Orion crime boss out there who is in charge. Like
Yeah.
I expect it is much more gonna be there'll be a couple of different competing cells or maybe like one specific cell of the Orion crime syndicate that is actively trying to take charge in Shackleton and trying to like sort of make that influence matter in the same way that we have a couple of different Romulan factions like Sela and the sort of regular Tal Shiar out there, and we'll probably have some Klingon factions and some other people as well. Like there's lots of people who could be eyeing up Shackleton and going, this could be profitable, like this could really be
Well,
beneficial to us.
I think because it sits in such a fascinating position strategically. There's so
Yeah.
much opportunity to start causing some major trouble for a lot of people.
Mm.
And I think the thing about Sol being, and obviously Sol is an Orion, there's some connections that we can possibly make here.
Yeah, I think so my read on the situation is just that like why is there an Orion captain in Starfleet? Like Azuri is the first there has ever been. I really expect that like that is not something they are expecting to see. They have a lot of like potential to be a problem to the crime syndicate.
Yes.
But there's also the potential that anyone who looks at them goes, you're a plant. There's no way you're a genuine Starfleet officer. And so you
Which
can,
is like
you can
immediately what started happening
So
as well.
That's what I expected to read was like, oh my gosh, someone here has been planted by the syndicate. Like this person is definitely high up in the syndicate. If they are being planted as a captain in Starfleet, that's terrifying.
So I think there's a bit more to it.
But also useful in a kind of advantage way.
Oh, yeah,
like you
absolutely.
could just play that to your advantage. Be like, damn right, I'm a plant. What are you gonna do about it?
Yeah.
So
Which Azuri definitely did. Azuri definitely went. Azuri definitely picked up that these people were specifically scared of them and made sure to be very hands off, let the crew handle it, and just use their like very presence to be intimidating, which is amazing.
God damn it, Cal.
What did Cal do?
Azuri is a plant. They're green after all.
You
yes.
had more to that.
I did have more to that. So I think not only is it that is an Orion in Starfleet uniform. That is a familiar Orion in Starfleet uniform.
Interesting.
I use the word familiar quite technically here.
Right.
Because the Orion Crime Syndicate, I'm suspecting that Azri may have been involved pre-Starfleet days.
See, I agree that there definitely should be some history there. I don't know if I necessarily think involved pre-Starfleet days as opposed to evolved during Starfleet intelligence days. Like, if I were Starfleet intelligence and I landed an Orion, I would be like, great, that's fine. Do you know what you're doing? You're doing counterintel versus the Syndicate. You are going to like join the Syndicate as our plant, like absolutely. That is what Azari would be really, really useful for. So like I think there's definitely a possibility like we can draw all the normal conclusions, like Azari's family are high up in the crime syndicate. Azari has like siblings or parents that are high up in the crime syndicate. That would, that would not be unexpected given the crime syndicate is named for their species. I think it's much more interesting to go, was Azari ever in the crime syndicate themselves? And if they were they ever genuinely in the crime syndicate, or were they in the crime syndicate for Starfleet? Because either way,
excited
there's a lot of potential
to find
there.
that out. I'm very excited for the I Remember styled episode where we start delving into Sol's backstory.
Yeah. Except
Also,
obviously it doesn't matter and it's never going to come up, and there will never be another
ever.
Orion. Like the Orion Crime Syndicate is in ruins, and we won't see any of them ever again.
Never.
Just on that, if we do have an I Remember style backstory episode, how is that going to work with Exio?
Well, I don't think they're that young.
No, they're not that young.
Like as a program.
I'm just fascinated as to where, like, okay, none now. We will see.
We will see. So that's all very good. I would like to just highlight like how cold Olin is. Like I really enjoy Olin's character. I love Olin's relationship with Prowl. I love Prowl kind of delivering again another like slamming one-liner from Prowl, like the ambassador is being nice. And then Olin just like turning around and being like, "Oh, I wasn't trying to be nice. Like, I am not happy with these people." Like Olin cold and furious and very much sort of protective of these people and angry on their behalf is a really beautiful sort of setup and makes me want to know more about what makes them tick, kind of like as an ambassador. What have they seen that is something that is so instantly and specifically like, no, you don't do that. And how are they going to cope if the Ross gets their murder on at some point in the future?
Also, from this scene, I have the nomination for the Amy Dallin Award for exemplary service to role playing. In Sam's line of the best have been like it's happened to the best of people. It can happen to you as well.
Nice.
And it's like, oh, knife in the gut.
Yeah, there was a lot of really beautiful sort of moments. And that was more or less our plot.
That was the episode.
That was the end to the Before Hell part of the plot.
Yeah.
I would like to point out, like, it's a nice, like, it's a really nice, tight little episode with a bit of a mystery. Like, there's the twist to the mystery that, like, it's not just this guy being, like, on his own working to sort of destabilize these, Exborg and this colony so that he can get back to enjoying his life. There is why was he working with the Lethians? Why was he working with the crime syndicate?
What? Also, Lethians,
like,
in general, super mysterious and weird. Like, and like hyper powerful telepaths.
Yeah. They come up in a couple of episodes of Deep Space Nine where they are basically criminals, doing bad things and, making use of their telepathy powers. They do hilariously look like demons with big red eyes and sort of scary foreheads, like
and the teeth and.
Yeah. They don't have a great look, and it's not the most pleasing to the human eye aesthetic. Basically, they look scary. So I like all of that. I have questions like, did Chirek know that he needed to source Borg parts before coming to this moon? Was this all along Kong and he was planted here deliberately to try and collect them? Or did he sort of get in touch with these people afterwards and say, hey, I can get you some Borg parts if you get me off this moon? Like, how much contact was there? Well, yeah, exactly. But also, why is this moon not listed? Why were the Klingons so surprised to discover it existed? What?
I mean, also, that could have been in this whole mystery plot of like. So there's the question of were the Lethians here to buy and sell the tech, or were they here to use it?
What?
'Cause-
In what sense? Because like they very clearly were only here to collect three drones worth of parts essentially.
yeah.
And then Shrek was like, "Well, I've got you a whole moonful. What are you complaining about? There's loads here." So I suspect it was a stock. Like I suspect it was stocking up.
For what, Kato?
Yeah, I mean that's an excellent question. Just by the way, chat, like I can see that you're talking about the like obviously Eric did mention the sort of like the role that Azri has played in taking down the Syndicate. The question Mitch and I are debating are more or less like, is the contact Azri's had with the Syndicate only through Starfleet, or is there a history that goes back before that? So like it's very possible that they started out genuinely being part of the Syndicate, and then they turned and joined Starfleet. Like that's a not impossible plot. And even sort of besides that, like it'd be interesting to explore an Orion who wasn't explicitly pro the crime syndicate from the very beginning of their life and had reasons for that, and kind of like what connections they do or don't have as far as like family and stuff. Like so it is very interesting. It's very interesting, and this planet is very interesting, and I don't even really trust Lejang. Like I have lots of questions about how this planet came, like how this moon came to be, how this setup happened, who in the KDF or in Klingon intelligence or in Klingon high command authorized all this sort of stuff, and why they were abandoned for 7 years.
Peacetime, which houses have been involved in this?
Yeah, there's a lot of good plot.
I feel like it may be something that will start being addressed in the Klingon game.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like it's a really nice setup for wanting more answers, but we know that the Ross is not necessarily going to come back this way all that quickly. But we know there will be a Klingon game soon, and it's not impossible. And in fact, it's really great when like so one of the real highlights of Vast, which again, like I'm really sorry, chat, it's very difficult to find Vast now.
Yes.
It basically doesn't exist on the internet after the first 4 episodes. One of the best things about Vast was because they had 2 different ships. It was very possible for one ship to encounter a planet or a species or a character in the first season, and then the second ship to encounter them in the second season. And so you would see the effects and the sort of like the follow up to what had happened after the original crew left, but through the eyes of people who had never been there and had no idea that this had happened. And so you see that beautiful sort of like cause and effect, but it's not forced so that the same characters go back.
Perspective
and
is a funny thing.
Yeah, like you get it through an entirely different lens, but you do get to see it move forward in time, and you get to sort of see like what's changing, and then you still have the possibility for the original crew to return later on. I really like that. I'm really excited about the possibilities the Klingon ship has for those kinds of stories where there's crossover between what's going on with Eliza and her crew and what's going on the Ross, and seeing like those little sort of like follow-ups. It's going to be really fun to try and map all of that stuff and what's foreshadowing what on what side.
Kato is absolutely going to have a board like
just a conspiracy
Charlie
board, yeah.
in Who's Gonna Watch It.
There is going to be the Pepe board.
I am only in one server that is called the Red String Brigade. I would prefer not to be in another one. I'm only a little bit.
Why does that feel like a Magnus Archives?
It is not a Magnus Archives thing.
It's not a Magnus Archives.
Oh, it's not?
It is not. It's not a Magnus Archives thing. It is to be fair, and like in the interest of clarity, there is Rusty Quill, which is the people that make the Magnus Archives. They also have a long form narrative RPG podcast, which is an actual
RPG.
play.
It's Bertie and Chessington.
Yes, I mean it's not specifically about either of those characters, but it is a conspiracy
board for that game.
Possibly my favorite actual play podcast. Definitely my favorite D&D or Pathfinder style actual play podcast, which is both hilarious and some of the best mystery like I've seen, while also being such a classic D&D plot. It's amazing. It is very off topic, however. So that was the plot. That was this episode.
For those who are interested in that, go check out @the Rusty Quill on Twitter. Mm-hmm. They're a great company. They make really great things.
I will tweet a recommendation about them because they are really great. Once we stop and finish, but first, can we talk about my close up? Can we talk about Q?
Do we want to crunch first and then finish with the party? Or do we want to party first?
Well, so like if we do the party first, I know exactly how long I have to talk about mechanics before we run out of time.
All right, we'll do the potty first.
Thank
so, we had a visit from a friend,
you.
a hairstylist.
Yes, though perhaps that would be a somewhat dismissive way to describe Q. I really love this. This is obviously Eric coming in and giving us both sort of backdoor canonization for Shield, acknowledgement of the greater Campbellverse, acknowledgement that like in a different universe, like somewhere else, Sally Ride had her adventures with her crew, but they don't exist in this universe, and it's not going to affect this ongoing sort of like story here, which is all very nice and lovely. And it sort of it branches out to canonizing Callisto 6 and the TVD world as well through sort of like the magic of time and space. But it also foreshadows an awful lot of very interesting stuff and a lot of very interesting questions about the direction that this show is going to go. There is lots of future plot implied in the fact that Q doesn't know what's going on and can't see what's going to happen and can't see how everything is going to fall out as a result of the Ross coming to Shackleton. And even just questions like...
So I love the fact that there seems to be a new Q. But I'm not sure yet, because Eric didn't explicitly describe Q.
No, so Eric, on his stream today, did talk about like using John Delancey's mannerisms for this Q.
Okay.
So that would make me sort of suspicious that it would be that Q. I guess I don't know how useful it is to think about the Q as separate. Like they are a continuum, and I don't think human sort of understandings of personality or individuality are really sort of like applicable.
Okay.
They can be any shape and any form, and like John Delancey is the sort of classic Q, and we do treat other members of the continuum who are played by different actors as different people or different Q, but I don't know to what extent that's even true or reasonable, because they're so weird.
They are very weird, and I love them a lot.
Like the continuum are so strange as a sort of concept, and I think it's very interesting to sort of say like Eric Q is close to Delancey Q but not quite Delancey Q, and you know, if there is a spectra of Q, like this is the like
it's a spectra,
this is where
spelled SPEQTRA.
Yeah, obviously. You know, like this is where they fall, but I also think it doesn't matter, because no matter who it is, they are going to occupy the narrative role of the Q who interferes with humanity and with the Federation generally for the good of the continuum, but also out of boredom, and possibly help everyone along the way, maybe? It is unclear. That it's going to be the same inscrutable like character as far as a narrative point of view, even if it's not explicitly in the same shape or in the same sort of like form. But they ask good questions. So they ask things like they raise this thing of like Azuri getting into the academy and the person who got Azuri into the academy and why and what the circumstances were around that and how it has like led to this and what reflection it's going to have on the future, and all of that is very interesting.
And the way that Azuri is just like probably in a more Cisco reaction to a Q, where she's like, "Oh fuck, it's a Q."
Yeah.
See, no, because I think Cisco's reaction to Q is just sort of instant shutdown. Like, Cisco's reaction is, I'm not playing the game.
Yeah, true.
Azuri's reaction is much more like Janeway's reaction, which is, you could be useful to me. Cisco is just, go away. Like, Cisco is, I'm not playing this game. You can't have your fun with me. Stop. And he shuts it down. Whereas both Janeway and Azuri have the advantage of the knowledge that Picard brings, and you can sort of see them going, okay, this is happening. My approach is going to be not being quite as standoffish as Picard, but like sort of being more wry and yeah, you're playing a game. I know you're playing a game. Let's play this game then. Let's talk about this. Like it's a very interesting style of confrontation that reminds me most of Janeway, of the people we've seen canonically interact with Q. So that was that. That was all lovely.
That was all lovely, and then we had like absolute loveliness.
Yeah, so it was like stress, mystery, like death, the Orion Crime Syndicate, and then it was like beautiful Q interactions, a little bit lovely, and then we just went off the charts. Loveliness,
Loveliness everywhere. Explosions of loveliness.
Yeah. Because we had Lalubel, the like, I can't even say it. It is
Lalubel.
this. Yeah. Yeah.
It's so beautiful. So Gina as Exio in this manner, in this style of playing the character, in this unbridled enthusiasm for making people happy, is just so, it fills me with joy.
Yeah. It's really good. I am kind of interested in Exio and Olin and the potential for like a date versus a date, and how kind of quickly Olin was like embarrassed or excited or had that kind of like, oh, it's a date, is it? Like Olin's reaction to that was very interesting, and like we know canonically, like Aki has said that they're gonna play Olin as asexual, but that doesn't mean aromantic necessarily. So like I'd be really curious because Olin has that reaction everyone has to being told that it's a date. When you're like, oh, it's a date, okay, okay, you know.
I think the thing that was really interesting for me in that moment was, yes, it was very fascinating. Ship away, ships ahoy. Arkia has mentioned previously that Patience is a service dog. And deliberately choosing to leave Patience in the quarters, what shows an extreme level of trust in Exio. And that friendship has a lot more depth than maybe we initially realized.
Yeah, there's a confidence into like being able to have that. It's nice. There's lots of stuff where we're seeing sort of development of relationships that are really interesting. And like, yeah, Gina absolutely knocks it out of the park. Like huge amounts of energy just the whole way through this, the excitement, the planning that has gone into this as far as like all of the different things.
Also, my son being very silly.
Yes, so Vren has somehow managed to keep a secret, which like very impressive, Vren. Good job.
The fact that it was, isn't it, Kato?
Yeah, the fact that it was him and a bunch of children is probably like again. Like, children are not necessarily quiet about secrets. Like, this is all very impressive. Some children have asked Vren if they can have a Captain Soul Day. And he said yes. And then he scheduled it for the same day as Lalubel, which, like, I don't know, Vren, like, check a calendar, read a memo once in a while. Like, think about when, like...
When is Vren does not read memos. When Vren has been given memos, he, like... and you see that he's read them, what he's actually done is closed his eyes and opened it and swiped it, so that he's never actually laid his eyes on it once in his life.
Vren is one of those monsters that has, like, plus 999 unread emails.
Oh, yes. No, he's like...
And it hurts to see the notification.
Do you know how many my record for unread emails?
Do not say it. Do not say it. Kato, we're going to continue talking about Lalubel and how adorable Tech and Lacat were.
Okay, I was just going to say that obviously Azuri is a more powerful captain than Picard because Azuri has no weakness to children. And this is important to note. Like, Azuri maintains really good relationships with children, and I really like that as a fact for the captain. And it's because Azuri is clearly better than Picard. I'm not going to take
That's fair.
Any comments on that. So yeah, Tech. Beautiful and hilarious, calls up going, oh my goodness, where's all this power going? Captain, I think there's something wrong with the warp core.
I'm tempted to ban that person. Goddess, you are on thin ice.
What?
It's fine.
10,000.
Yeah, my current record is 15,500.
You're both banned.
Anyway,
this is a Kato and Mitch podcast now.
And then Tech goes and invites Jane.
Oh, this hurt. This was so hot. This was just everything. this is just so yummy, yummy.
Yeah.
When she's like, but that's only for people that you care about. He's like, I know. Oh, yeah. Stab me in the fucking heart. Okay, I'm done. I'm done.
They're beautiful. She's very, very good at deflecting. I love their exchanges. I love their relationship and like the back and forth that they have already. Like Tech being like, "Listen, we're gonna drop rank and talk about this seriously," and she's like, "I outrank you. I get to say we're dropping rank," and he's like, "Yeah, but that's why I said we're dropping rank so that I can talk to you because you're technically my boss." And And I'm really interested in text, like, sort of read on all this. Like, Jane obviously messed up back on Starburst 24 and immediately realized what she'd done and tried to fix it with tech. And he has taken, like a month and a bit, essentially, to get to the point where he's able to say, yeah, I understand, like, you said some really sharp words that, like, were very cutting, but you kind of, like, got to the truth of the matter. And, like, his reflection on it is really interesting. And the fact that he feels like she was truthful is really interesting. And he feels like that he's really taken her comment to heart. And I'm glad that their relationship is healing, and I'm glad that they're moving on. I'm worried.
I am also worried.
That's not a great, like, it's not a great comment to take to heart, that you're responsible for your brother's death because you don't stand up for yourself.
I also think it's a little bit more than that. And I think it's going back to Tech's thing of Bolian politeness in other species' language. In that being very direct and upfront about the situation is a very Cardassian way of approaching it. It's cutting straight to the core of the situation, the same way that Jane did. And he's taking that inspiration back from when he was talking with the Tellarite and kind of focusing. And he even said it, like, I was treating you like a Bolian. I need to treat you like who you are. I need to treat you like Jane.
I find it really interesting as well that he said that he's made allowances for friends who were Bolian in this way before, but he wasn't giving Jane that same benefit of the doubt. And I'd be really curious to see, like, who he made allowances for.
I think when he said he was making allowances, it was for his Tellarite friend.
But okay, possibly I misheard that. We can, like, go back and check. But, like, I thought it was really interesting because I'm curious about how that worked out and whether or not they were good allowances. Like, for sure. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I trust this development to be entirely positive, even though it obviously is very positive right now in that their relationship has, like, has improved and is able to, like, get to the point where they can continue to be friends and continue to talk, and that it's not going to necessarily simmer. But I am worried about the implications on both sides, and I want to know more about how they got here and what's sort of, like, leading them to make these choices and these decisions.
This also, the way that Xander or Tech was talking was basically, this conversation is not over and we can talk about this more another time, but for now, let's clear the air and enjoy Lalu Bell.
Let's have a nice party.
Yeah, this was very much a, let's not make this awkward, but also this is not done with. We can discuss this in further and have a heart-to-heart when we're not having a beautiful, wonderful festival about love.
Love and friends and family. Are you ready to be sad?
Yeah, speaking of, like, awful, horrible things, like, Macrell just has a bad time.
Oh.
So, like, there's obviously this Cation boy who, like, was about sort of, like, 12, I believe.
Who we could presume was someone important to Macrell. Someone important to Macrell. It could have been a child or some sort of family relation or just a friend when they were younger.
Like, someone important to her. And so she's remembering this, she's having this, like, really nice quiet moment, and then just, to rub salt in that wound, she has to talk to Dr. Willix, who's everyone's favourite member of crew.
To be fair, I think Macrell, like, doesn't dislike Willix.
Yeah, it is very hard to tell, because obviously she's very professional, and she would never sort of, like, show disdain for her patient, like, outright. Like, she is good at, she has a reasonable bedside manner as far as not revealing her feelings outwardly. Like, she's good at that front.
But even in things in this conversation, they were talking about history and past, and be like, do you want to put anyone on the wall to remember, to think about? That's a big olive branch.
I mean, it's not really, because it's a thing that anyone can do. Like, he has the same...
It's a thing that anyone can do, but, like, the act of actually, like, directly saying and asking.
I don't read it as being more, like, as being necessarily more than just a good doctor with a good understanding of, like, because you would just go, okay, well, like, you're here, standing behind me in front of this wall of remembrance. Are you perhaps here to do something with the wall of remembrance? Like, it could still fall very much in that, like, awkward conversation sort of way. I can see your read of, like, yes, like, Macrell's voice and attitude make it difficult to get a read on her and how she feels in lots of ways. Like, just totally.
That mask.
And And like we've already seen, she's more than happy to flirt with a Klingon who's openly threatening some of her friends. Like she has a very interesting read and attitude and response to situations. So I'm not going to say necessarily that you're wrong that she feels like affectionately or positively towards Dr. Wellix, but I just don't understand how she is, and I can't read her very well as far as like what's going on under the surface.
It's nebulous, and Bonnie's doing a terrific job with it.
Yes, how much fun everyone has with like just her accent and the way that everyone said curious together. It's really delightful. Yeah, it's incredibly beautiful. So.
It's so fun because we had a very different Cation medical officer in S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes.
Who was like the complete opposite.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited. This was just a really lovely moment. Because a lot of the time we think about Trek when we're watching it, it's meant to embody the best of us. And more often than not, Trek starts dwelling on the worst of things. Like, all of the crap of war, all of the crap of all of that. But this was just a half an hour of just focusing on joy and family and friendship. And it was really beautiful and nice, and I needed that.
Yeah. And I'm glad that we had it included, because we wrapped up the story, the plot of this episode a little early, and we sort of had the choice to sort of include this sort of right at the end. And it's really nice because it does feel like we have like finally reached the end of the tutorial mode, or like reached the end of the prologue. We will be at the Shackleton Expanse. We will be at Narendra suit like to next episode. This is really exciting as far as like what's sort of happening. And I really feel like getting that one final shot of everyone in the crew sort of set us up really beautifully to be like, this is where everyone's at. We've seen a bit of tension. We've seen a couple of episodes of how they work. Let's
sow some more
see
seeds
what
as
starts.
we get into the story.
Absolutely. Now, it is 8:05.
Do you want to have a quick crunch?
Can we have a little bit of a talk about beautiful combat and beautiful mechanics?
Little a crunch.
Little
as a treat.
Yeah. So it's very exciting. Obviously we saw extended tasks. They're complicated, they're difficult, there's a lot to track on them.
It is.
There are words that don't necessarily mean things intuitively, and I just want to shout out Xander because he's obviously been swatting up. He's obviously like made a huge effort to understand how they work, and also to connect the mechanics to narrative things. So
I think it's because science and engineering are the ones who are going to be most frequently doing extended tasks. I think he's then going like, I'm going to need to know how this all works. Don't really need to know how combat works. Just this bit.
Yeah, and it's nice to see players that are proactive and recognize like this is the part of the rules I most need to engage with. This is what I have to understand. I also really like the touches that have been made, obviously, to connect narrative to mechanics. So like Xander is constantly throwing out like justifications, like he's narrating what he's doing, he's talking about what different bits they're using, he's giving narrative reasons for advantages, like he's being a very nice, proactive player, trying to like impose that narrative over what can be just like a very basic, crunchy, like, yeah, I just roll and we have the success. So extended tasks. You have a work track. That's the amount of like stuff you have to do. You have a magnitude, which is the amount of breakthroughs you have to have. You have a difficulty, and you have a resistance. Resistance is like essentially soak for how much work you do. It's stuff that prevents you from moving forward. They had quite a high resistance at 2. Yes. Like normally resistance doesn't go above 3. That's because of the Borg technology. They had a reasonable magnitude of sort of 3, and like a middling work with the kind of the 12. So the magnitude is normally between 1 and 5. They had 3, middle of the road, and the work is normally between 5 and 20. They had 12, again middle of the road. And then it's just like you do a task, you see how far you progress, and then you come back to it and you do another task and you see how you're progressing. And there are ways to make it more interesting by sort of having time units that are being used up, and if you know that you've got a limited amount of time, you can sort of quantify that more effectively. So it is a fairly nice mechanic for sort of saying this thing is going to take a long time. Let's see how far we can progress each moment. That said, like it is a little bit crunchy.
It can be a bit crunchy, but I think, as you said, I really like the way that Xander added that narrative juice on top of it.
Yeah. So a couple of things here, like just to sort of like things that jumped out at me from this. So like It was really good. We had like tech working, we had Sing running an assist. And like just as a normal, you roll for your tasks, you see whether or not you meet the DC, which is 3. Then you see how much work you generated. So you roll the special Star Trek effect dice, which we haven't really got into.
You can just use regular D6s.
You can use regular D6s as a conversion table, but you can roll these dice that include sort of notification of effects, and you can either get 1 or 2 or nothing on each dice that you roll. You should roll 2 plus the discipline that you use. Yes. So tech, I'm assuming, has a discipline of 5 engineering. Yes, no, you're right. It's probably 4 because he probably has untapped potential, which means he can't have above 4 in any specific. He is baby. In any specific department. So he should be rolling 6 dice. He does not generate very much work the first time. He only generates 2 work, which seems ridiculously low. I wonder if
when you've got a 2 in 3 chance to generate at least 1 work.
Yeah.
Per die.
Plus they had momentum to burn there. I think he didn't roll enough dice that first time, but obviously I physically wasn't there. I can't tell, because I think they were counting it as 2 plus the number of successes you got over the difficulty, which is not true. The successes over difficulty just generate momentum like they normally would, and then it is your discipline that you should roll. So rolling 6, there's a reasonable chance that you would roll effect, and then you can spend momentum to remove resistance, which is the most effective way to generate extra work, or you can spend momentum to add work. Or to reroll dice. And that will generate more work. And so they generated 2 work the first time and 5 work the second time. And then that taps into this thing that, if you generate more than 5 work, you get a breakthrough, which pushes you forward. And we got half.
Is it a selective reroll or a complete reroll?
It's a selective reroll.
Cool.
For the momentum spend. You can reroll as many dice as you like.
Yeah.
And that 5 work, it seems to be you have to generate that 5 work in one go to get the breakthrough.
Yeah.
So you can theoretically get to the end of your work track having not got any breakthroughs, but getting to the end of the work track is a breakthrough itself, and then generating more work after you've done that is a breakthrough. So it's very easy to quickly sort of
once they hit that 12, they would have.
Once you've done that amount, so we get roughly halfway through, we get to 7, we get to 1 breakthrough, I think, which is kind of halfway there effectively. 1 more roll and they would have been fine, and then we sort of stop. So yeah, it's a fairly nice mechanic. It's better to do it sort of spread out in the way that they do it, where you sort of are cutting back and forth to and from tech and other people, and they definitely are putting the effort in to sort of bring that narrative up as well. If people have questions about how it works, I can try and sort of explain it more or better, or come up with a flowchart, but it is a little bit more on that crunchy side. It's one of sort of the elements of the system you really do have to engage with. Other than that, obviously we are seeing some more interesting combat. We've talked about how not having Rue this season, this show, allows us to do more with phases instead of hand to hand, which is great, and to do more with non-damage effects in hand to hand. So we see Bonnie kind of dealing with the fact that that hand to hand combat is daring security and not fitness security, because fitness is constitution and daring is your strength dex kind of attack roll stat. And basically there are 4 different things you can do in combat. You can disengage, you can grapple, you can shovel, you can strike. And so Star Trek Adventures has quite a nice system. I like opposed rolls for attacks. I like opposed rolls for combat. It's a really nice system. It sort of gets you right in the competitive thing. And effectively the roll is not an attack roll so much as it is a roll to see who is dominant at this cycle in the combat. So if you are dominating the cycle of the combat, you can attack, which is strike, and you roll damage dice, which will be like the extended task dice we've just discussed. Exactly the same dice, but a similar sort of thing. There's a base effect for what weapon you're using, so you get 1 or 2 for the weapon type that you're using likely, and then you add your security, so you add 4 or 5 or 3 dice if you're not particularly good at security to affect that damage. That's your standard. Shove forces the opponent away and out of reach with you, so into close range, so further away than your immediate vicinity. That would be away from a 5-foot square in D&D terms, so no longer able to sort of threaten or engage with you in this round. And you can roll a knockdown effect on that as well. Disengage is the same, but you move back instead of them. So if you have control of the combat, you can disengage and move back out of range, and they have to move back into your range next turn. Or you can grapple, which is what we saw on the show today, on the show this week, and we had the. Yeah, and again, a DC2 fitness security check is quite a good, it's quite a nice thing. And it takes up their entire turn essentially trying to break out of that grapple, which obviously didn't even succeed this turn. So it's a nice system. It's reasonably straightforward. It's just thinking about that initial roll, which is contested. So you have to hit one, and then it's who has the more successes. Thinking about that as not an attack roll necessarily, but as a sort of a way to measure who is dominant in the combat at this moment, who has got the upper hand. Because it's not necessarily about attacking or defending. It's much more about who is exerting control over this little like melee essentially, and therefore once you've done that, the attack roll is choosing to roll damage as opposed to grappling or anything else. So I'm glad we're seeing slightly more complex bits of combat there, and I'm like really about that. And we've already talked about the tractor beam,
Already
which
talked
is
about the
delicious,
delightful, delicious tractor beams.
and it's definitely my favorite part of like the mechanics of this episode. So that was
Absolutely. I'm very
that's
excited.
that's mechanics.
That's mechanics. Next week we're in Shackleton. Well, tomorrow we're in Shackleton.
Yeah.
Very keen. Very excited. As... What's the forecast for tomorrow? Wait, no, we need to do other things first. Who are you, Kato?
I am Kato, aka Kato, and I can be found on Twitter at Kato, aka Kato.
Gasp. I'm Mitch, aka Kung Fu Panzer. And who are you?
And where can you be found?
I can be found on Twitter at Kung Fu Panzer. Nightbot.
I am the third host who doesn't matter and who our game master has no idea who I am.
Yeah.
I am the #1 Punky Stan, and I can be found over at Twitter at Captain_Tiny for spicy Dragon Age hot takes. Don't at me, you won't change my mind. So Mitch, you asked me what the forecast was for
what's
tomorrow.
the forecast for tomorrow?
It's looking like snow.
Looking like snow.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh shit! No, sorry, that's the wrong day. It's clear skies.
Clear skies. Thanks for coming. See you next time.
Peace.